Welcome back to the Real Life Momz podcast. It is time to take a break from all our to-dos and take time to focus on you. I'm Lisa Foster, your host, and today I'm here with fellow mom, Michelle Kennedy. She is a Reiki master, author, a yoga teacher, and Akashic record reader. And she's here to help guide us through stepping into our power, our confidence, and just loving ourselves, which I think is sometimes really hard, but so important. So thank you, Michelle, for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm intrigued about what you do because people come into my office for craniosacral work and they ask about things like Reiki and these Akashic readings and things like that. And I don't really know that much about them. So I would love for you to tell us a little bit more about what you do and maybe explain some of this stuff to us.
Sure. I am a Reiki master, healer, and teacher. I do Akashic Records readings along with the Reiki. And the reason why I do it that way is because that's how it came to me. I didn't train in Akashic Records. It was something that I had, without realizing it, had glimpses of in my past. And then once I was attuned to Reiki, all the doors opened. And every session I was doing, I was getting glimpses of people's past lives and glimpses of their past traumas or childhood things. And I just thought that was part of Reiki until I had a very unusual session with a person that I tapped into something extraterrestrial. And so I was a little, I have seen a lot of things, but I was a little unnerved, we'll put it that
Mhm.
way. And so I reached out to my Reiki master teacher, and she said, "That's the Akashic Records, Michelle." And I was like, Akashic Records, and then went and researched. And what all people do, went on Reddit and went on social media and went on to pages and groups and said, "Does anybody else know about this or do this?" And apparently not a lot of people do, except for those who, are doing trainings or have done trainings. But one other Reiki master also had these gifts open up when she was attuned. And so we kind of compared notes and started talking more. And a long story short, that is something that I do. And it really helps people that have trauma or have deep fears or phobias, and it's been extremely helpful to them. For example, I teach prenatal yoga and mommy baby yoga, and I had a mom in my class who was pregnant and had to go for an MRI even though she was pregnant. She already had claustrophobia, and being pregnant, she had even more anxiety coming up about this. And she said, "I've heard Reiki's good for helping you relax, so maybe this will help me." And we did a session and we tapped into a past life of why she was claustrophobic. And she felt so much better right after the session. I told her all the things. She was skeptical, but took it and went to her MRI and was fine. She said, "I didn't even need to listen to music, not even headphones." She's like, "How did that work?" And I said, "Well, we tapped into that. Your soul memories are now kind of connected to your present life, and it's not so scary anymore."
Mhm.
So I 100% believe in that work and the combination of the two, because just reading the past lives and past events isn't enough, that the Reiki comes in and the energy heals those places,
Mhm.
and or at least opens the doors for healing of those places, if not anything else.
Oh, I love that. Now, can you explain a little bit more about Reiki itself? Is that I know it's obviously it's more energetic, right? Less touch, but more energetic. So, yeah, explain exactly what that is because I don't know how many people are familiar with it.
Sure. For years, it has been called hands-on healing, and you're right. It is energetic. Very little touch happens in a session, and it is not vital or needed to happen in a
Mhm.
session. The way I like to describe Reiki is that we are all carbon-based. We all have this energy from the universe and space within us. We are made of that. And Reiki is universal life force energy. So it exists all around us in the purest form of it. we have that in ourselves, but when we have stress and anxiety and work and fatigue and mommying and all the wifing and all the other things that we may be doing becomes muddy or clouded or weighed down. So Reiki comes in, this universal, untouched, pure life force energy comes into the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual body. Wherever you are not aligned with your true self, your true soul self, it clears it out and makes you more you. So that's
Beautiful.
how
Yeah.
I like to describe it, that it gives you that opportunity. Now, I can't, like, as a Reiki practitioner, it's more of like facilitator and catalyst. I can't, no Reiki practitioner can force the energy in or make you accept it. It's all based on what you are willing and ready to receive and
Mhm.
clear.
Yeah. And similar to cranial sacral, it's cranial sacral is more of a touch. It does have a lot it works with the cerebral spinal fluid. So we are actually physically on the body itself. There is an energetic component as well. But once again, I think both of them are also very similar in the sense that we follow the body's what it needs, what it wants. It's not the actual practitioner pushing anything into the body itself. It's actually holding space and following the body. So it's probably pretty similar in it. And it empowers the client, the person that's on, for me, on the table, for you, I guess, however you're working with them, but it really empowers the client because they come, which they don't realize, with all the answers, with all the information, with all the tools. They just need some help accessing it.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's a beautiful thing to witness, though,
Yes.
right? It's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing to witness somebody coming in out of sorts, out of alignment, and then they walk out
Mhm.
just more them, better them, and yeah, it's really incredible to see.
Yes. Now you mentioned the true self. You're kind of accessing this true self as it allows for that. So how do people, because this is one of your areas, is kind of really getting into people's authentic self so that they can really love themselves and then others can also feed off of that as well, which is beautiful, right? Great ripple effect. So tell us a little bit about that, how that works and how you work with that.
So, I mean, that's a little bit Reiki, a little bit Akashic Records, and I can't even, it's kind of one of those things where the two overlap and meet. But if we think about babies, when babies are born, we say they're perfect, right? They're perfect. They don't have life stresses. If you look at a toddler sitting down on a floor, they can sit with straight legs out and a straight back, and they're
Yeah.
just unaffected by the weight of the world that we adults are. So I think, in a sense, energetically, that's closest to our true self. We're not supposed to be walking through life stressed out, crouched over, gritting our teeth, putting tension in our shoulders or wherever it's held. So that, on that sense, that's the Reiki,
Mhm.
that pure, again, because babies and children are much more connected to that. And I think they just naturally do that. And
Mhm.
then life and limiting beliefs get put on them. And that's how we become adults that need Reiki and craniosacral and all the other
Mhm.
therapies. And then the Akashic Records part helps connect to any parts that are disconnecting from that true self, whether it's the true self of your infant or child form or true self of your soul for lifetime over lifetime over lifetime. And it doesn't have to be a cognitive belief in past lives for it to work. It just has to be an openness to that connecting, reconnecting, and healing and allowing that to happen.
I love that because we do get a lot of skeptics listening, but also that come into our office and they're just at this point where they'll try anything, to be honest, right? They're just like not, they're suffering, they'll try anything. And sometimes that's just what they need to be open enough to be receptive to this type of work. And it can be really effective, even though I started the work because I was a skeptic. I'm from New York originally, and I have to say, we're kind of skeptical over there and what we can't see. we need a little bit more proof. And so like for me, that's how I started my journey with it. And it's interesting because when I went to my first class, which I was very skeptical, but open to feeling what was going on. I had like closed my eyes and had my colleague on the table. And I'm like, let me just feel this. I'm going to close my eyes and feel this. And I got very angry at the point because I felt she was moving. And I was like, dude, like I need to really concentrate here. Stop like moving your legs around and doing all these things. And she's like, open your eyes. I'm not moving at all. And that's when I realized, wow, there is more in this world than we can physically see that is going on.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Agreed. And on the point of the skeptics, it's sad that sometimes our, upbringing, society, whatever, has put that on us that we have this skepticism or doubt, and that we have to wait till we have no hope left,
Yeah.
And I think women and mothers, right? But particularly women, even in the medical community, that we are so often dismissed as, still to this day, crazy, like, oh, that's just, you're anxious, or it's,
Mm-hmm.
you're depressed, and they're so easily, and I'm not dismissing that people are anxious and depressed, but that there are sometimes physical problems happening that are dismissed. And so coming to a person who does energy work and believing that they can help is it's a tough acceptance. And it usually is at the point of nobody can help me. And I see a lot of people like that.
Yeah.
Doctors can't help me. They can't figure out what's wrong with me. Figured this is my last hope.
Yeah, and I also find though with clients that because we as practitioners are trained in a different way and can feel certain things, when I describe what I'm feeling, and I'm sure you do the same, is the person first for the first time ever actually feels heard and seen because no one else can see it. You can It's not something that's going to appear on an X-ray or an MRI or even in a blood test, right? But it is physical and it is there. I mean, there are things that I feel within the cranium when I'm doing cranial work that feel stuck and tight. And they're like, oh my God, I feel that. And to have that validation alone sometimes is just the right thing that gives that client hope.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I have definitely had that with people where I can identify their pain. I can identify exactly where it is, and they are in awe. And I've even worked on babies
Hmm.
that I'll tell the mom, hey, this is what I'm experiencing. This is where it is. I always have to say this, and you probably do too. Well, you probably don't because you are a physical therapist, but I have to say I'm not a doctor, but this is what I'm sensing, and this is what I would look further into. Ask the doctor if they'll do these tests.
Hmm.
And I
Right.
swear that it always comes out right. And they're
Yes. Yeah.
shocked, but
Hmm.
also, not shocked because the doctor couldn't figure out to do those tests in the first place. And then it just helps.
And I do think I maybe because I am a physical therapist, I'm getting more doctors on board. I get referrals a lot from physicians, but they also refer to me because when they get stuck, they know and they've seen results that it can get them over that plateau that they're dealing with too. I mean, ultimately, we all want to be there for our clients, our patients. That is our goal. We don't always know the answer, and that's okay. But to refer out to others and try something else. And I do want to say to people listening that like if you feel that there's something wrong that's not right, you're probably right. If you feel like there's something not right within you and you're going and you're hearing, nope, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine, you are your best doctor. You know yourself the best. And yeah, I would say, broaden the horizons a little bit and reach out to other types of practitioners out there that might be able to look at you in a different lens.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And keep advocating,
Hmm.
keep seeing doctors and practitioners until you find some answers.
Yeah. So you've also written kind of a guidebook, right? It's called Hold Space, Affirmations and Meditation for Healing and Loving Yourself to help people love themselves and heal. And I know you have a lot of tools in this book. Can you tell us a little bit about it and maybe share some of your tools that you really love for people to use?
Yeah, sure. So it started out as an affirmation book because my clients, particularly those with that were going through trauma or working through their trauma, they would see me on a regular basis, as often as they could, every 2 weeks or once a month. And they were like, what can I do in between? And so I would give them affirmations to work on. And so I originally thought it was just going to be an affirmation book. And it evolved into something else. Well, this affirmation kind of needs a little explaining first, and then it just started growing and going beyond, and then kind of aligned it in this almost chakra order and hit on some major points of wellness in the sense of, issues we may have in life of stress, anxiety, trauma, mommy issues, daddy issues, confidence issues, whatever they may be, right? And so there's a lot of affirmations to go with those particular scenarios or meditations. And I started with yoga and I love meditation, and I even did meditation way before I started yoga. It's a great way to recenter yourself. And a lot of people struggle with meditation because they believe it's something beyond what it actually is. You don't have to be having a clear mind to meditate. It's about helping yourself kind of stay steady in that clouded mind and be a little bit more focused and unfocused at the same time, like not spinning in those worry thoughts or whatever your to-do list is. And it's quite common for to-do list items to come up while you're meditating, but the pathway is, to my opinion, the most important and probably the easiest way to meditate and calm yourself or ground yourself is in breath. And that's talked about in the book multiple times in multiple types of breathing. But even if you just breathe in and out and pay attention to it, it's calming you, right? When we're anxious, we breathe short and shallow. And sometimes we even forget to breathe because we're anxious. And that if we just slow down and count our breath, box breathing is talked about in a lot of areas, but box breathing is balanced breathing in yoga, and it's breathing in for 4, holding it for 4, breathing out for 4, holding it out for 4, and just repeating over and over. And it literally helps bring down your blood pressure, regulate your heart rate, and it really helps you ground and calm. That, I think, breath is the first thing that I always go to for myself as well as for people around me who are anxious or clients. And so there are things like that. I also made recordings of the audio recordings of the meditations because I don't like to meditate to a book, and I don't think most people do. So whoever buys the book can click on a link in the book which will send me an email, and they can download. I'll send them a link to download the meditations so they can just listen to them,
Yeah.
which is another great thing. And there's one meditation that is kind of a mantra, but also a meditation about I am a mountain, and it's to help you ground. And what's steadier than a mountain? So, yeah, so things like that are in the book, as well as affirmations about, like, I am strong, I am confident, I am powerful, that
Mhm.
kind of thing.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the breathing as well. And I mean, honestly, when I had high blood pressure for a little bit, and I'm not a big medicator in general. I do not enjoy medication, and it works a little too much for me, I would say. And so when I had gone to the doctor and I was like, oh, well, let's get that down a little bit, I decided to meditate twice a day. And I had something where I could check my blood pressure and it was going down. And then when I went back to the doctor to get checked. I also did some breathing before walking in the room because probably the doctors scare me a little bit. And my blood pressure was normal like 6 months later. So, I mean, it works, right? Like,
Yeah.
look at that. Like, it totally works. And you can even see it if you have like a blood pressure cuff and you do that box breathing, you can take it before and take it after. It'll immediately go down. It's like pretty amazing.
It really is. I had
Yeah.
a pregnant woman in my class that had, I guess it was like preeclampsia. And so she had to really watch her blood pressure and she would do the breathing. And
Mhm.
she remembered it from class and she would just say, okay, she was like in her head saying, all right, Michelle, help me get calm. And she would just like hear my voice guiding the breath so that she could bring her, and she always brought her blood pressure down
Yeah.
until it went to preeclampsia. And then it was much more physical issue out of her control, but she
Mhm.
really kept it at bay for a long time.
Right. And if you need medication, definitely do that. However,
Yes. Yeah.
trying some of these things too alongside or before it gets to a point where you do need something could be really, really helpful for sure. So, okay, what is one thing that you would love the listeners to start doing today that once they turn off this podcast, incorporate this into your routine? This is really something that can put you to the next level.
I would like to say that breath is again the best thing to tap into your own alignment. And one of the breaths I've used all through yoga and I still use today is one hand on the heart or heart area and one hand on the belly, whether it's upper or lower, but preferably upper because that's the bottom of your lungs, and just really feeling the space fill up with each breath. So you're really taking the full breath in. And then as you exhale, feeling like the chests fall and the belly really come all the way in. So you're emptying your lungs fully. Because sometimes we breathe really deep, but we forget to empty all the way. And we're keeping the toxins in. And it's not all physical, but it's energetic toxins because we're not expanding that space and letting things just move. So, yeah, breath is a big enough movement for a lot of the internal organs to really clear out. So those breaths, and it could be the box breathing, whether it's 4-4-4-4, or it could be if you're anxious and you want to calm down, you want to breathe in like a normal breath in, but you want your exhale to be longer. So ideally, it would be like a breathe in for 4, pause, breathe out for 8, pause, breathe in for 4. But sometimes when you're anxious, that 8 is really challenging. So even if it's 4 and exhale for 5, or 4 and exhale for 6, or inhale for 3 and exhale for 6, but getting to that point where your exhale is slower and it helps again lower the blood pressure, lower the heart rate, gets you into a better mindful and physical state so that the anxious energy can calm down.
Yeah, I recommend
And
that
then,
one all the time. Yep.
yeah,
Exhaling twice as long as you've inhaled
yeah,
because it takes you out of that fight or flight state and puts you in a rest and digest state so things can
yes.
work better and you can calm your system. So yeah, I love that. I'm curious though, the pause. What happens in the pause? Like you say, breathe in, hold, pause, and then exhale. Is there something actually happening in that pause that makes
So,
it so
yeah,
important?
in that pause, it's kind of this almost, there's so many things happening in it, but it's
Yeah.
almost like in that amniotic state where you like are breathing in water, but you're like, when you take that inhale and pause, you really are letting the cells take that moment, take it all in. And then at the exhale and the pause, also taking that moment to really like let the body and the cells and the blood and everything kind of say, ah. And I have been taking singing lessons on and off throughout my adult life, but my recent one said, and this is kind of aligns with this, when you breathe in and you just hold it for a moment, that's the space of support
Hmm.
when you want to sing. And it's
Mhm.
the same thing energetically. When you breathe in and your diaphragm relaxes in between, that's that space of my body is supporting me.
That's beautiful, actually. Well, okay. Where can the listeners find you and all these great things that you offer?
My website has everything. It's myreikihealer.com. And I'm also very active on Instagram, and you can see many, many videos where I discuss some of these things and others, and sometimes timely things of I feel that we are all energetically connected. So I may have a theme that happens in a week where everybody comes to me with the same kind of issue, or not exactly, but like there's a theme, there's a running thread through,
Mhm.
and I'll talk about it on a video and share what things kind of collectively came through. So Instagram is a great place for that kind of stuff, and that's at my Reiki Healer. I'm also on Facebook, but less, same thing at my Reiki Healer. And yeah, every other link, phone number, email can all be found on the website as well as Instagram and Facebook. I didn't mention the book. So the book link is on the website too, but you can
Yes.
also find it on Amazon. Even if you just search Hold Space Michelle Kennedy, it will be there on Amazon.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on this show. It was so great to learn more about what you do and just other options that are out there for moms.
Thank you for having me, and thank you, moms, for all you do. Take that time to appreciate yourself. And I have one addition. You are not just blank mom. Your name is important too, and you are a person beyond being a mom.
Ah, yes, love that. Thank you for listening to this episode. It was so great to learn more about what Michelle offers, including Reiki and the Akashic record readings. If you want to learn more about Michelle and how to connect with her and her book, just click on the link in the show notes. And if you're looking for simple activities that you can do anywhere or anytime, check out our workbook, Regain Your Inner Calm. The link is in the show notes, and these give you simple activities that you can do throughout the day to help you rebalance your nervous system when you're feeling stressed. And until next week, keep carving out time for yourself, keep prioritizing yourself because you matter.